This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Just a few thoughts continuing in our series of upgrading your Tefilla. There are a number of Mitzvos d'oraisa that we perform every morning. They're not that many, but there are a couple. We have Talis, Tzitzis, we have Tefillin, we have Kriyas Shema, we have the Mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. Those are four. We could add Birchas HaTorah, according to many. Birchas HaTorah is d'oraisa. And according to the Rambam, there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to daven every day. So that's really 6 mitzvahs d'oraisa that we perform every day. Now the Shulchan Aruch Siman Samach, Siv Daled, brings 2 opinions. Does one have to have Kavana when they're Mekayim a mitzvah? Meaning, does one have to have express intention? I am intending to fulfill a mitzvah d'oraisa, or is it enough just to do it? And the Mechaber brings down different opinions. He quotes Tosfos and Rabbeinu Yonah, you don't have to. He quotes the Bahag and the Rush, you do have to. And he concludes, the halacha is mitzvahs tzrichos kavana. And therefore, it is certainly worthwhile just to take literally a nanosecond to have in mind, at least by mitzvahs d'oraisa. There are many opinions quoted in the Mishnah Berurah that even the Rabbanans need Kavana. But let's begin with the d'oraisas. That means before we put on talis, we have to expressly think, I have Kavana to Mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of Tzitzis. Before we put on Tefillin, we should have in mind, I expressly am mechavein to Mekayim the mitzvah of Tefillin. Before we say Kriyas Shema, we should have in mind, specifically to Mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of saying Shema twice daily. At the end of Shema, before we remember that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, we should expressly think to be Mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. We're adding that according to the Rambam that Tefillah is a d'oraisa, at least before we start davening, or perhaps before Shemoneh Esrei, we should be mechavin to be Mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of Tefillah. Likewise, before we say Birchas HaTorah, l'chayra, it would seem that one should be mechavin to be Mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of Birchas HaTorah. Now, the Chai Adam has a chiddush that even though we pass a mitzvah tzrichos kavana, but if you didn't, you would not have to go back unless it's a mitzvah like Tkiyah Shofar, where we could say, well, maybe he was blowing to practice, or a mitzvah like Shema, that maybe he was saying it for just limud HaTorah. But other mitzvahs, the Chai Adam says one would not have to go back, because why in the world else? Why else would you be taking a lulav and esrog? Or why else would you be saying Shema in the Tzuras HaTefillah? So the Chai Adam has a chiddush, stama l'shma, that we could presume you're doing it expressly for the mitzvah. But certainly, Mishnah Berurah says, l'chadchila, one does need to have express kavana to mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa, and really mitzvahs d'rabbanan as well. Maybe we'll go through that on another occasion, but it would certainly elevate all of our mitzvahs and all of these aspects of tefillah if we stopped for a moment. Yes, many people say the hineni muchan u'mezuman, but it's not halachically required. The Mishnah Berurah on Siman Taf Ayin Gimel says explicitly one is not required to enunciate one's kavana, but at the very least one needs to have it in mind. So wishing everyone a great day. Bracha v'hatzlacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.